How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It has been a while since I posted. I'm really happy to be back, and in today's video we are going to be building Jedi Fallen Order in Lego. Now, I played this game for the first time recently and I was blown away at how good the story was and the mechanics. I just really loved this game, and as soon as I was playing it I realized I wanted to build it in Lego, so that's what we're going to do today. Now, the first thing we got to do is get a Cal Kestis minifigure. Of course, it came in the latest Star Destroyer set, so I picked that up and got to work building the set. Now, while I get the set built, I just want to give a little bit of a channel update. Some of you more frequent viewers of the channel are probably wondering where I've been over the past few months, and I actually landed my first career job out of college. So, I landed a job in the field that I studied in, which is awesome, but it's definitely stressful and it's been quite a routine change and everything. So I've lost a lot of time that I previously had to work on projects and work on videos and Lego and everything. So I'm slowly getting back in the swing of things now that I'm settled into my job a little bit, and I want to get back to posting more frequently, so hopefully you can do that. But getting back to the Lego side of things, I got the set finished. I really like the build, honestly, and the minifigure selection is pretty top notch. The Imperial troops look good, and Cal Kestis looks great as well. But there is one caveat to this character. He didn't come with a poncho. If you play the game, it's pretty much a staple in Fallen Order that Cal has this poncho he wears all the time. So I thought we need to make him some ponchos. These are pretty easy to make. As you can see, we just cut a little piece of fabric out and then cut a little hole for his head to go through, and then I ended up choosing the dark navy one out of the three we made. And now that we have a Cal Kestis that has a poncho, got some customizable options on there, now we need to make some enemies for him to fight. And one unique part about Jedi Fallen Order is the fact that the scout troopers have these electro staffs. So I made a couple of those, and then I would have loved to have a purge trooper for him to fight. In the trailer of the game at the start of the video, I showed you guys these, and $27 didn't seem too bad. I was going to order one, but then when I went to actually place the order from Clone Army Customs, it was like $85 just because of where I live in Canada. The shipping is absurd. Same thing went for BD1. I would have loved to have him as well, but he would have cost me like $75. Like, this is kind of, it's not worth it to me. I'd rather spend that money on parts or sets or whatever. So, but now that we have some enemies and Cal Kestis, we can think about what planet we're going to build. Of the planets in the game that I wanted to build, I decided I want to build Kashyyyk. I've never built it before. I thought it'd be a fun challenge, and more specifically, I want to build this area here. As you run up to this entrance, you have a few enemies to kill. Then you go in here and there's this long corridor. This is all part of this Imperial refinery that's on Kashyyyk. They also have a bunch of Wookiees imprisoned here. So you kind of play a lot of the game in this area, and I thought it'd be really cool to try to recreate it. As always, I like to start with a micro build. It's just a really good way to lay out my thoughts and also give a visual representation of what I plan on building for you guys to see. And then we can always look back for reference if we're kind of getting stuck throughout the build. So now that we got the micro build and our minifigures, we can go ahead and get started on building the mock. Now, usually when I do a mock project, I am incorporating some type of Lego set, and typically those are scaled down quite a lot. In this one, I'm not going to be including any vehicles or anything, so I can really scale up the build much more than I otherwise would. So we can actually have it pretty much minifigure scale. So as you can see, the doorway is going to be quite large, and I'm trying to make it replicate the source material as best as I can. So I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far. And then once again, just taking a look back at the micro build, I think this is a really solid start. However, I am going to be changing it up a little bit just to try to replicate the source material a little bit more accurately. And as we come down the corridor here, as you can see, I have it set up to where I'm going to have the separate doorways, just like you see here in the source material from that little clip I showed in the beginning of the video. I realized pretty quickly after getting the design down for the doorway that if I'm going to have this upscaled quite a bit, then I'm going to have to really increase the size of some of the components in this build. So I started by increasing the size of these three dark gray pillars. I think they turned out pretty well, and it kind of gives us an idea and a basis of how the rest of the build is going to size and scale compared to the door. Considering this is going to be an Imperial refinery, I wanted to give it a bit of an industrial vibe, so I threw together these pretty simple builds, just a couple accent colors with that yellow and the dark gray cylinders, along with some light gray. And honestly, this is genuinely one of my favorite parts of this mock. It's just these simple little details that can bring these things to life and make them really reflect the source material you're trying to create. So far we have the pillars down, and I kind of have everything sanctioned off. There's going to be a few different sections of this build. Next up, I just wanted to add a couple railings here just to add a little bit of detail before we move on to building up the rest of the walls. And I'm not gonna lie, these scout troopers with the electro staffs are pretty sweet looking. I'm definitely gonna have to include them in more projects moving forward. But now, just as a little recap, this build is going to be sanctioned into 3 separate sections. We got this exterior here, and we're also going to have this little room here that's going to have 3 doors and some windows at the back, and I plan on putting some lights in there. And then of course we're going to have this long corridor that has the gaps where the pillars are and everything. Of course, we're going to have to do a lot of detailing. That's just kind of giving you guys a quick overview of what's to come. I want to start in this room by getting all the flooring done, and I like using a bunch of great pieces in the middle there, and then just keeping everything nice and symmetrical. I get a lot of satisfaction by just building symmetrical things in Lego. And then another part of this room is replicating that Star Destroyer window vibe. It's actually what you see in the source material here when I walked into this room in the clip of the video game. So just putting some hinged pieces on their sides and then some window panes. And then now we've replicated that Star Destroyer vibe, and all that's left to do is just building up the walls around this. Now I want there to be lights in here, but I also want this build to be modular. I've never really built modular buildings before, and it's always really a pain to be able to turn on the lights and turn off the lights and everything. I want to be able to reach my hand in here and place minifigures just like I did there. So I need to build a roof that I'm able to take in and out as freely as I would like. So I'm starting out with a couple Technic plates. Luckily they fit just perfectly in there, and then I'm just building everything around that, and I'm going to be adding some light modules in here. So as you can see, I've got these 2 lights attached from Light My Bricks. I can just slap the module right in there. It really nicely illuminates everything, and then I can just cover the rest of it with some simple plating. I'm really happy with the way the lighting turned out, and once again, having it modular makes it so much easier to place minifigures and everything. We will come back and add some details to this area, but next up I want to work on this second section here within the build and start by replicating that flooring design I had in the first room. And even though that design is pretty simple, it was really fun to replicate that. I love building at this scale. I wish I could build this scale more often, but I just don't have the parts or the room to do it. But I'm really happy with the way the flooring turned out, and then I just quickly built up this other wall here. Now I've just got to think about how I'm going to get a roof on this. Before we do that, I just want to take a step back and look at what we've got so far, just sort of take inventory. So we got the first room there, and then the corridor. Now all we've got to do is add the roof and then do the exterior. So with the roof, I just wanted to add some tiles here, a few exposed studs so we can attach a modular roof, and then I just threw together some plates, kind of reinforced it with a couple layers. And this is going to be the roof, but of course we've got to add a bunch of details. Now originally I was concerned with how I was going to cover up all these exposed studs here on the top, but after a little bit of time and effort and trial and error, I came up with something I'm really happy with. I'm always trying to keep that symmetrical feel to a lot of my builds, so I did that with this roof piece. I've just got a mix of light and gray tiles, some ingots and vents, and of course just adding a bunch of cool little greeble pieces like this here. I guess this would be an HVAC system or something, and then just accompanied by some simple little builds to go on the side there. Next up is this lower section here with these 2 panels that I can just easily remove. I'm definitely going to consider doing modular building more frequently moving forward. It's so easy to just pop it out and work on it, add a bunch of detail and greebling. And then as you can see here, I've just replicated a lot of the gray accents from the last panel I did, and just try to make them unique as possible. Greebling is just one of those things that you just kind of get practice at, and the more unique parts you have, the better it tends to look. Taking a break from the gray, we can finally work on some of this terrain, and I really tried my best to work an angle into this, so I got some mud working up into some green terrain, and I built it up a few bricks because I wanted to replicate the source material as best as I could and have Cal sort of jumping off of this ledge down to where the Imperial troops are. So we got a nice basis for that, and as you can see in the source material here, that's kind of what I'm going for. And then I wanted to add a bunch of foliage, and this is my little bin of what I consider specialty foliage pieces. So once I got all those on and added some tree limbs onto the tree, I really thought this came together very nicely, and I'm honestly really happy with this build. Lastly, I want to add some finishing touches to the MOC. So I've got this Imperial banner here we're going to be putting on the left side. I think it fits that area and fills up some negative space pretty nicely. And then of course we got some ingots and crates. Now this is obviously a staple to any Star Wars build, is having just a bunch of random crates all kind of scattered around. So threw all those in, finished up some railings on the back side here, and then that is going to finish off the build in its entirety. I'm really happy with this build. And now that it's totally finished, all that's left to do is the showcase. So let's get to it. In the aftermath of Order 66, the Empire began to exploit Kashyyyk for its vast resources. A surviving young Jedi named Cal Kestis was here on the planet to find the whereabouts of a Jedi holocron. He first grabbed his lightsaber, did some work on it, and then got to work infiltrating the Imperial refinery here on the planet of Kashyyyk. Not only was the Empire exploiting the resources, but they had imprisoned the planet's native inhabitants, the Wookiees. Cal saw it fit that he take action and free some of the Wookiees here that were imprisoned in the Imperial refinery's base. On that note, that's going to wrap up building Jedi Fallen Order in LEGO. I'm really happy with the way this project turned out. I didn't really know how it was going to go, especially with the scaling up of things, but being able to build something from this game that I truly did love was very exciting. This did end up taking me about 30 days, as the thumbnail of the video indicated. Like I said, I've been pretty busy, so who knows, maybe one day I'll get around to playing Jedi Survivor and then subsequently building a MOC based on that one. Now, some of you may be wondering what's next here on the channel, and eventually I do want to get back to a large scale project, but in the meantime, I've got a few videos I want to tackle first, one being with the Jabba sail barge here and the Sarlacc pit, so I'll let you speculate on what that video is going to be. And then I also want to do a build challenge style of video with some clones again, so that's going to be really fun. That's just sort of giving you guys a little bit of a timeline what's to come. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.